5, 4, 3, 2.
And welcome to another fine edition of It's a Sports Show. I'm Scott Cray, alongside me as always, Dolphin Paul, and making his second, he's not even paying attention. He's so reading up on his, shoot, I'm going to be on the sports show. I should probably figure out what's going on. Should we call him Eagle John Turner?
Oh, heavens no. Just because I love the Eagles doesn't mean
well, he's Dolphin Paul.
He's Dolphin Paul, yeah.
I'm bandwagon Scott, according to him anyway.
It took me a long while to cultivate this Dolphin Paul thing.
Yeah,
but listen, Eagle Turner, that has a name.
I like it. Eagle Turner.
Remember Eddie the Eagle?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Did you guys watch have you watched the Remy's yet? It's this thing that's on Nessun now where Jerry Remy goes through a certain portion of like the last week or two of the Red Sox as they progress, and he did a first half synopsis, and there was one of the biggest sections in that was the tiff that apparently Jerry Remy has with one of, down in Florida there, one of the mascots, I guess. One of the mascots hates Jerry Remy apparently, and the little green monster that comes along with him.
Oh,
I could tell by the look in your faces that neither of you have any clue whatsoever. Of course, I could have dreamt the whole thing. Maybe it didn't really
I've
happen.
heard of the Remy's. I think the more interesting question is this Remy thing, Rem Dog.
He's everywhere.
It's taken a life of its own.
He's a monster.
Just I was at the Red Sox game this past Sunday.
Sorry.
That 8-1 debacle.
You picked the wrong game to go to.
No, I was walking around in Yawkey Way and I saw Rem Dogs. I'm like, Rem Dogs,
Yeah.
let's go grab something there.
Absolutely.
So I walked down with my buddy. I walk in. It's like a small gated area, like a dog kennel.
Yeah.
With a stand. It says Rem Dogs. I
That's
thought
it.
maybe it was like a little pub or something. I go in. I'm like, what is this? It's like a picnic
So did you
table.
buy anything anyway?
No, we left. We went somewhere
Oh,
else.
let's hope Jerry's not watching
I
the
bought
show.
like an $8 hot dog instead.
It's funny,
There you go.
Jerry Remy's not even on our itinerary here today, but how about, the guy being not offered, but whispered here and there about taking over managerial positions in the past, and he wants nothing to do with it. Like you're saying, he's kind of a cash cow for an announcer. He's become a pretty big deal here in Red Sox Nation and across, the country. For
and
the
he
most
plugs
part.
it too. It's not like
yeah.
he doesn't say
Oh,
anything.
he's shameless, absolutely.
Not
So
a
it's
problem
kind
at
of
all.
it's kind of taken a life of its own. But I think it's been a long time coming. With the Rem Dogs, Dirt Dogs, and I guess
Something about dogs. Red
baseball.
Sox dogs.
Unfortunately, is a sport that you
Dogs Day
can,
of
you can
Summer,
talk
it
about a
all
lot of
blends
different
in
things.
with baseball. Dogs and dogs.
There you
Dogs
go.
and dogs.
Well, we got a lot to talk about, believe it or not.
You're
and
scaring me. I'll tell you,
know.
this is unbelievable.
Two things that we never talk about, and we're going to: the NHL and the Celtics. There are people that are watching right now having mini strokes because we're actually going to talk about the Celtics. But first, we always have to start off with the Boston Red Sox, who at the point of shooting this show right now are only a measly half game above the darned New York Yankees. Our last thoughts, taking 2 out of 3 against a pretty pitiful Kansas City team. John Lester pitching outstanding so far this year. He's, I believe, 5-0 and
5-0 with a 3.24 ERA. I mean,
in the American League, there is nothing wrong with that. That's all-star status right there. So, what do you guys think about this team as we head into the home stretch? By the way, if Dave Betancourt, former host of this show, were here right now, he'd have a countdown of the free agent,
who's available?
July 31st.
What's going to be going?
July 31st is coming fast, and I'm not so sure the Red Sox are going to be able to do anything. There's nothing out there.
There's nothing out there, and part of that problem is that too many teams now have signed lengthy term contracts. We're no more going for the 1-2 year contracts. They're now keeping the talent around. They're going 5 years. I mean, with that happening, it reduces the free market agency. With the reduced free market agency and with teams that are suffering right now, in the major areas we're going to be picking up anybody is in pitching, and right now there isn't any team out there that is 100% healthy. By far, the Red Sox are hurting big time in their pitching end. I mean, they've got a young bullpen. The two veterans that they have on the team, good old CNS and Tavares.
DP's favorite. By the way, I don't know if you guys heard, but this morning I caught wind that Tavares is on the trading block. Didn't quite get to know to who yet or what.
I heard about CNS too, and I forgot who the guy was. I guess it was CNS for some guy.
A lot of rumors right now.
I give up CNS for 2
Phillies.
6-packs right now.
Yeah,
You know
no
what?
kidding.
Hey, go give us 2 6-packs. Keep saying I don't like him. Like I said, I was at the game Sunday when he came in. I just don't think he's a good pitcher. Then Tavares that came in, It's like, okay,
Well, get an extra $8 hot dog for Tavares for the deal.
Not bad. 6-pack and a hot dog. I'd take it in a heartbeat.
but just getting back to these games, I mean, the Sox lost 3 out of 4 to Oakland, so in there, like John mentioned, the pitching woes are kind of creeping up here.
Yeah.
And we can go into it a little bit. And the first game against Kansas City, if not for the
Doug
Marabelli
Marabelli.
home run, which it hasn't happened in a while, if not
Right.
for him saving that game, people were going to start to panic because Kansas City is a team they should roll through.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah,
the day
and-
we're down, anybody turn that game on like I did, I'm like, whoa, you're losing.
Yeah.
They got the home run. I think that was a key game. I really do. I mean, the Yankees were breathing down their neck, and then they came back, of course. John Lester, who's, keep our fingers crossed, he's turned into
So far, so good.
a pretty solid pitcher. And, I mean, there's a
Yes,
lot of
but-
different areas that we can go in the pitching staff. And
2 one-run games against Kansas City. That's not how you go into the playoffs.
It should not be.
Especially the Yankees. They haven't lost a game since the All-Star break. We've dropped 3. I mean, if we had been keeping pace, we'd be 3.5 up. We should legitimately be 3.5 up on the Yankees and 6 up on Toronto, but we're not.
I'll tell you what worries me most about the Yankees is the possibility of acquiring one Alfonso Soriano from Washington. As you know, earlier in the year, Soriano unhappy about playing in Washington. Guy turns out to be an all-star outfielder at this point, and he's certainly slugging the ball. Just what the Yankees need, and they could certainly afford him, and they could plug him in place because the Yankees are hurting so much in the outfield. They'd be more than happy to put him out there.
And I think he'd be happy to go. I mean,
Absolutely.
they'd make him the offer. He'd be able to play in the pinstripes. He'd be playing, baseball mecca. So why not?
I don't
be
care
true.
about Soriano. I care about pitching. The Red Sox need some pitching. And
Yankees do too, though.
But you said they're going to get Soriano, so be it. I just hear a lot of talk about the people talking on sports radio and everything. Oh, let's get the 5th starter stabilized. Let's get the
third starter stabilized.
why spend money on it? I don't understand that. 4th or 5th, that's a small move. Now, I
Right.
understand pitchers don't grow on trees, and that might not be, Dontrell Willis, which has been the hot name, is probably not going to go anywhere. But, I mean, why concentrate on the 4th or 5th starter? Yeah, I'm with you. Let's talk about one guy who's really scaring the crap out of me and should scare the crap out of a lot of Red Sox fans. Josh Beckett.
Yeah.
This guy is
Hot and
scary.
cold.
He came in as almost an ace. He's given up the most home runs.
I told you.
He a lot of times he doesn't pitch. He throws fastballs. He thinks he's going to blow by everybody, and he doesn't. He's had some very shaky outings.
I told you all along.
After Schillen, this is a scary staff.
My
I'm sorry.
main concern was when he came around to
Yeah,
that
but you're
hot
worried about the
weather.
blisters.
Yeah, maybe there's
He hasn't
something
had
there
a
they're
blister
not
problem
talking
this
about.
year, though. That's one
Maybe
good
they're
thing.
not talking about it, though. It just seems like he started off okay, but he's progressed to the worse as the weather has got hotter. Like I said would happen. That was when he had his problems in Florida. Was as time went on, the heat came in. Yeah, they haven't said he's had blister problems yet, but maybe it's occurring
I don't know if
somewhere
that's an
along the
issue. I
line.
just think he's coming from the National League and he throws some heat.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just have to pitch. I think maybe sometimes he overrates his ability to throw it by people, and he doesn't pitch.
You
I mean,
can't
he's
fool
got
as many
stuff.
people in
That's
the
what's
AL
frustrating.
lineup.
He's got the stuff. You see him throw the ball, you're like, man.
He's still young,
got the
too,
stuff.
don't forget.
Well, he's still young, but I mean, from a Red Sox point of view, after Schillen, who's old,
Right.
Lester now, again, let's keep our fingers crossed. This kid could turn out to be a pretty good pitcher. Everybody's talking about David Wells coming back. I mean, are we really going to put our eggs in David Wells' basket?
Well, let's make things one
I mean-
step
Well, yeah,
worse.
but we're looking at no choice. I mean, look, we've got our ace that's been around forever with back spasms. I
Yep.
mean, we've got another gentleman, Matt Clement. Where's he
we
been?
can't count on
I mean,
his.
he's
His head's in
gone.
La La
Wakefield, as we tape the show, is
I don't know if it's been made official, but he's looking to go on the DL at
possibly
this
on the DL. Is going to try to pitch a
point.
game.
He couldn't even get out of his last outing. Now he's got back problems. It must be bad
Well,
if he throws a knuckleball
I
and he
think
can't get out of an outing.
If it had been up to Tim, he'd have stayed out there.
Yeah.
Because Marabelli was talking to him. We cut it on Sports Center afterwards. He was talking with him, and Wakefield's like, "Don't tell the coach. Leave me alone. I want to pitch.
Right.
Leave me alone." But obviously, they're sitting there in the box and they're looking at him, going, "No, this isn't working." So they went out and they pulled him. But if he had had his druthers, Tim Wakefield, he's a horse. He'd rather have stayed out there and pitched through it.
Right.
But
But then that might hurt later on in the future, in September when we really need him to pull things off against the Yankees series that we'll talk about in a little while that are going to be coming up. We're going to need that
But
guy to be okay.
I mean, I think in general it's going to be a dogfight. Boston, New York, and Toronto. The Red Sox, as we take
I want
the
to ask
show.
you about Toronto. 4.5 games out at this point. Are they still in the mix, you feel?
Oh,
Oh
absolutely.
yeah, definitely.
It's a long season.
It's becoming shorter and shorter, pal.
It's becoming shorter, but now it starts to get a little interesting. But I think Toronto's been there all along. They're 4.5. It's going to be tough, but they're 11 games over 500.
Right.
The Sox, as much as we've kind of described a lot of negative aspects of the pitching staff and so forth, they're 20 games over 500, 30-13 at home. But it's going to be a dogfight, and let's face it, the Yankees aren't going to fall by the wayside, so the Sox better be on their toes.
I'll tell you right now,
down
you
the stretch.
need to win the division in this division because
Oh,
there's
yes.
no way that the wild card is coming out of the East. I'm
No,
telling you
not
right
this
now.
year. It's going to the Central.
Chicago White Sox in any other division would probably be a first-place team, but they're playing behind. They're 3.5 games behind the best team in baseball record-wise in Detroit.
They didn't fare well against the Red Sox and Yankees either.
Yeah, the Yankees swept them, so that didn't help. We don't even talk about the West, and I'm looking here. You got your two West Coast teams. Oakland in first place. The LA Angels only a half game behind them. So again, you have these teams that you basically have 6 teams in the mix for 4 spots, and right now, whoever would be second in the East Division, I think, would be odd man out at
Absolutely.
least.
Yes.
And we mentioned we have the Red Sox schedule in front of us, and
Yeah.
anybody obviously can look this up, but
People are talking about the advantage of how many home games the Red Sox have. 38 total home games from this point on. You brought up the good point. Yeah, they're home games, but look who they are against.
well, from August 14th on, they got a series against Detroit, a series against the Yankees, then they go out west, LA, at Seattle, at Oakland, who, let's face it, played them pretty well out here, Toronto, then the White Sox. So from the middle of August to the middle of September, boy, they're going to be
Not only is it
tested.
tough teams,
That'll
but
make or break them if they can come out of that with above 500 ball and maintain the lead in the East. They can coast the rest of the way, give their team a rest, and go into the playoffs. If not, they're not going to make the playoffs this year.
Well,
That's
I
just
don't
the way it
think
is.
there's going to be any coasting. I don't see any way to coast. There's no way these
what we'd
two
have to
teams
do
are
is
gonna drop
pull
off
up the
that
Yankees schedule and see if they have just as difficult of a path forward at this point, where if they did, maybe if it coincided, they'd lose some ground too, and like John's saying, maybe able to coast. I kind of tend to agree with DP that I don't think I think it's going to come right down to the wire. The big thing with these tough teams they're playing, they're all, if not within the East, within some kind of mix of that wild card race. So not only are they tough teams, but if they lose games, it's going to be very detrimental to where they are in the standings for the most part. Because other teams are going to gain ground on them quicker, obviously, if they're playing them. So anyway, so that's how do you feel? Feel all right with these Red Sox?
Well, I mean, I think there's a couple things to look at. One is the trade deadline's coming up, and obviously we don't know what's going to happen. So I think
Yeah, there hasn't been a lot of big
in
talk or rumors.
in
Not
2-3
really.
weeks, we'll probably have a better idea, see what the Yankees do, see what the Red Sox do, see what Toronto does. A lot of teams in the mix.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 4 or 5 teams that need the same thing. I would take pitching. I'd love to see the Sox find a way to get.
Like John said earlier,
but
there's none
now,
out there.
who do you give up to? I mean,
Right.
Cianis, Tavares. I mean,
Yeah, there you go. Sure.
You
people
throw
would
in,
be
he's
thrilled.
throwing.
Thrilled to
Dontrell
have
Willis, I mean, what would you give up for him? He's only 24 years old, but
I don't see
would you
them
give up
getting
a
rid of
Lester,
him.
especially after
I don't think
his
he's
last
going
one?
anywhere.
I
to
don't
be
think he
honest
is
with
either,
you.
but I mean, the Red Sox have a lot of young pitching, and
With the way that Florida is playing, and we talked about this last week, they have one of the lowest payrolls in Major League Baseball. And when you compare payroll, there was an equation where you compare payroll to winning percentage. Florida was number 1.
well, not only that,
They were at the time only had 6 less losses than the Yankees with like a quadruple payroll.
not only that, they got some stadium issues. As you know, they play in Dolphin Stadium, and they're trying to get out of there. The Dolphins want them out.
I don't blame them.
So they won't have that crappy
why would you want to
crappy
be tied
football
in with
field
the
in
Dolphins?
September. But I mean, if you trade Dontrell Willis, does that hurt your status to
They
get?
won't do it.
Well, I'm just
They
saying,
won't do
does
it.
that hurt you in getting new stadium? There's no face of the franchise besides him.
They're playing very well with the young
but
players
there's still
they
10
have.
games under 500. I don't care what the formula says.
That's pretty good for their payroll. What was their payroll? Like
So
40
what?
million? That's like, a penny in the bucket for.
So you're playing pretty good, but you end up the season 15 games under 500. What does that formula
Because
do
I think
for you?
I think they have a future. I think this is a good basis of the future. I think
they
Dontrell
don't.
plays into this.
No, they don't have a future because it's the same thing that's going to happen. They start putting something together again. They're going to do every time that they have put something together. Next year, it's a fire sale.
After they win it all.
Well, yes, but it's going to be a fire sale.
So when I say future, I mean maybe they're going to win it all in the next couple of years, and then maybe they will
next
sell
year
everything.
they'll win it all. But so what? I mean, the people come to Boston to see Big Papi, not just this year. Next year, last year, 2 years, Manny. They come to see these guys play year after year.
Right.
That's how you build a stadium. You don't build a stadium on, well, next year we'll have a great team and then we're going to sell everybody off.
I don't know. Florida's got more World Series rings as of modern day than the Red Sox
There's
do.
a couple
so
things
I don't know
too,
if people
boy.
in Florida are completely complaining.
There's a couple things. Again, I'm obviously not the only person to have gone to Red Sox game, but there's a couple observations.
How
I'd like
did
to
you
make real
get
quick.
into a Red Sox game? Is this some sort of corporate
No,
gig?
no, it wasn't a corporate. I
Did
sat
you
with
get
the regular
on
crowd.
It's a sports show pass that I don't know
I
about?
showed him my pass, but 3 cops came over, so I ran the other way.
I don't blame
But no, John brought up a good point. I was there, and I've been there obviously a few times, but I'm amazed every time I go there.
Yeah.
Because you go to Yorkie Way, it's
great
like
old
a
school.
carnival.
Yep.
You go inside, and every single seat is filled. I look around and go, look at this. This is amazing. You see a lot of stadiums on TV, with empty spaces. This was every spot was filled. And, I think you brought up a good point about long term. I think, obviously, Florida would love to do that. And another thing is, it was pretty warm in Fenway. And that's how it is
All
every
the
day in
time.
Florida.
Right.
Well,
So,
that's why that's why they build the domes. That's why they air condition it. Make it comfortable for the people to come out and play. I mean, if they had that option, I'm sure they would go with it. Why
Look at
not?
Toronto. They got a beautiful.
They can have that
can't
option,
get
but
anybody in this.
Not in Dolphin Stadium. We don't want a dome. We want to see players on the sidelines with the mask. Breathing heavy.
Dolphins.
Absolutely. Well, that's where they
What are
play. So we don't want. So we don't want a dome there.
NFL teams, is that what they
Absolutely. It's coming soon. You can't deny me for much longer.
do? I
Football
know.
is coming, man.
Soon you can't be saying it's a long season anymore. Hey, let's wrap up some baseball with some comedy here. Jose, don't call me Canseco.
Mister, I didn't do the steroids, but everybody else did.
Right. In the Golden Baseball League, which is, I believe, a bunch of players for the most part that have long not been Major League Baseball players, made his All-Star debut as a pitcher, a knuckleball pitcher. He actually participated and won the Home Run Derby in front of a large crowd of 3,111 people. And, oh, by the way, got $250 for that. How do you like that, huh? You win a Home Run Derby, you get $250.
First of all, the Golden Baseball League sounds like some website that you'd go on, if you know what I mean.
It's
I mean, the Golden Baseball. What the heck is that? But
Sponsored by McDonald's.
Jose Canseco is clearly one of those athletes who just can't let go.
When asked what he would do
I mean,
with
those
this,
his
finally
money,
into the night.
start a business, get into the business world. I mean, he just can't let go. Him and Old Can Boyd, I just like guys,
So you don't think Canseco can make a comeback here? I mean, in his knuckleball pitching debacle, he only gave up 4 runs, and in 1/3 of an inning, by the way. Not
Maybe
one
in the
third,
Golden
1/3. Oh, by the way, asked what he would do with his $250. Quote, I'm going to take these guys out and get them drunk. I'm going to buy about 400 gallons of beer.
Hey, he's
Man,
pretty.
he can buy 400 gallons on $250?
That's pretty good. Well, he's got a little like barter. Remember the old days we used
He's
to
pretty
barter?
loaded.
And trade?
He
Like
got-
little steroids for them.
He got a
Really?
resurgence of popularity on that show there. What's that show there with all the ex?
Oh yeah,
Jeez, I can't think of it.
bunch of idiots.
They come on and.
Did you know that he pitched, by the way, in a 15-1 loss to the Boston Red Sox back in '93?
Yeah,
I don't
he did. I
recall
remember that.
I don't remember that.
Okay.
Yeah,
He
hit on
walked the
mound.
bases loaded and allowed 3 runs and 2 hits. So there you go.
Was he using his knuckleball back then?
Apparently, he's a knuckleballer. It's his thing. But oh, by the way, during that outing against the Red Sox, he tore a ligament in his elbow and he was out for the season. So I don't know. Jose Canseco, he might make it back up to the major league level. You guys better watch out. Maybe he'll do it before the trade deadline.
Yeah, maybe
Red
so.
Sox will-
Somebody will go for it.
Red Sox will have a. Yankees do need an outfielder. So.
There's a good chance of that happening, folks.
Let's move over to, believe it or not, we're going to talk about, and some of our viewers have chastised us for not talking about, the Boston Celtics. They decided to go with a contract extension with Paul Pierce.
$59 million
Just
for 3 years.
$59 million. Through 2011, he is ours, as far as we could see. And wondering what you guys think about this whole thing.
Well, whoop-de-doo.
As far as it being Celtic related?
Well, as far as it being Celtic related, I mean, I like the Celtics. I'm not a Celtics fan because I'm from Philadelphia, obviously. I'm an Eagles fan, and I was a 76ers fan. You know, I'm Dr. J era and whatnot, and unfortunately, that's when
You
we
go
were
way
playing.
back then?
Yeah, that's when we were
Dr.
playing
J. I
against
heard he played some
Larry Bird and
basketball.
all those guys, and it was a back and forth situation. But
I go back to Dr. J. I thought you were going to say earlier.
I'm realizing that as I say it to you that I'm the only baby here. So.
Well, I mean, he is a Philly fan, and you know, not to get off the. I mean, I think it's a good move they signed Paul Pierce. He gets the maximum. He stays in Boston. It'd be nice for him to end up a Celtic. I mean, you know, I don't
finish
think
up a Celtic, yeah.
finish
it
up
would
a
be
Celtic.
28 years old, so this measly contract extension
I don't
is not
think
going to do
I don't
it.
think Boston's problem has anything to do with Paul Pierce. I mean, it has a. I mean, I think their problem has to do with developing these young players that we've been told for 2-3 years.
Well, isn't Pierce necessary to be in the mix as a veteran player at this point, a veteran star, by the way, to keep the
absolutely
develop these players?
Absolutely, I think Paul Pierce is part of the thing. You got Al Jefferson, you got Green, you got the guys who played this year. Ryan Gomes, by the way, was their top player in the summer league. So, but. Is that enough? I think, fans are just about ready to give Danny Ainge like another year or so and say, hey, listen, we've been developing these players. You've made a lot of moves.
That
Let's
excuse
get this
can only
going.
go so long.
Well, I think that excuse is good for 1, maybe 2 years, and he's
I agree.
beat it to death.
And since we got Eagle John here, I mean, the big talk is,
AI.
Yeah.
Allen Iverson. I mean,
Allen
that's
Iverson.
Is he worth the trouble? That's the question. Let me throw out some things to you. He's ranked 2nd in the NBA in points per game. As good as Paul Pierce is ranked 6th in that same category. He ranks 7th in steals per game. Unfortunately, that goes with the flip side. He has an attitude, and by the way, he ranks 3rd in technical fouls. So you're going to get, as long as it's not only practice, which we've seen 10,000 times by now, but you're going to get
Practice, man.
Practice. It's just
talking
practice.
about. We're talking about.
You're gonna get
man.
what you pay for, but you're also gonna get what you pay for.
Well, you see, the problem is he's coming from Philadelphia, and we know that star athletes that come out of Philadelphia all have attitudes.
They're all thugs.
They're all
What's up with
thugs.
you Philly people?
Well, it's the only way to survive there, unfortunately, for some of these guys.
John was a thug coming
Isn't
out
Pennsylvania or Philly the friendly city of friendly, a brotherly
Maybe
love?
back in the Thomas
I
Jefferson
mean,
days.
it all started when they booed Santa Claus. I mean, I think, rough crowd down there in Philly,
Love you or hate you.
But you know what? I would absolutely welcome Allen Iverson.
Really?
Absolutely. AI and Paul Pierce on the same court playing for your team. Yeah. I don't care what kind of attitude he has. The guy's a player. You bring him in, depending on what they gave up, obviously. But I think it'd be a coup for Ainge if he were to do that. I mean, just
a what for Ainge?
A coup.
That's pretty
COUP.
good.
Coup.
I wanted to make sure that's what you
It's
said.
a coup.
That's some pretty good language.
Well, I think it would be dependent on what they gave up, but even so, to get a guy like that with his production, I think that would make him an instant playoff contender. NBA champion. I don't know, but certainly AI and Paul Pierce have that second go-to guy, a guy who could.
Can they coexist?
A second scoring option.
Does the attitude take over?
So
I'm
what?
not feeling too good about his attitude. And what I feel is a lack of leadership because of that attitude with these young players
Well, do you
that
think
you
the Celtics
just
are a
said
championship
need to
team?
be developed. No, they're not.
Okay.
With AI, can they make the playoffs? Yeah. Are they a championship team? Probably not.
A lot
Those players are
closer.
still
They'll be a
too
lot
young.
They're
closer.
closer, but they still need a couple of people. They still need,
Well,
a good
if you
center.
sprinkle in these young guys around 2 scoring options versus just one, Paul Pierce, I think it makes a big difference. Now, I don't think AI is going to go anywhere, but you know what? It would certainly bring back my Celtic interest as a fan.
Would it really?
Absolutely.
So what do you think what contributes to the lack of Celtic interest? I mean, we both had just said that.
Well, they're not that good.
Kinda got that.
They're not that good. That's the bottom line. Like he mentioned the 76er days with the Dr. J. I grew up in that era. I mean,
Right.
those series were fantastic. Dr. J, Mo Cheeks, the Celtics. I mean, them and the Lakers
Larry
and
Bird,
Philly.
everybody-
I mean,
yeah.
My equivalent
Good
to it.
players.
I remember Bird, but my big thing when I was growing up was, of course, Michael Jordan, and I would watch that Chicago when I could, just because.
well,
of
in the
it.
early years, Michael Jordan and the Bulls were pretty much dominated by the Lakers, the Celtics.
Yes, they were.
Jordan would have 65 points, and he was great.
Yep.
Right from the start, but he didn't have a team.
One man
and the
doesn't
Celtics
make
were
a
a
team.
terrific team. Them, Philly. I mean, it was always a great battle. I mean, those are games you used to sit down and watch the whole game. I mean, right now the Celtics got young players, but we're being spoon-fed. Young players, and it's frustrating as a fan because you want these young players to just start dominating.
You want them to start producing. You want
yeah.
them to start acting mature on,
I mean-
on a court, off the court. You want them to actually get out there and play basketball.
They've made some moves.
Can they do that with Allen Iverson, though? I mean, he sets a pretty poor example, and I don't see him changing anytime soon. I mean, why would a trade to Boston suddenly make him a quiet guy? You know what I mean?
I mean, I don't think they're looking to get him to be a quiet guy. They're looking at him for his point production. As long as you balance it out. Did
Production and
Did you ever
technical
hear the
fouls.
phrase, just Manny being Manny?
Oh, yeah.
Well,
so it'd be
you know,
just AI being
well,
AI.
you know you're getting the package. That's what it is. The package is what it is. I'm sure Danny Ainge knows that. But you know what? From a fan point of view, to go to Boston Garden and pay $8 for a Diet Coke, at least you're watching Paul Pierce and Allen Iverson. I think it'd be pretty entertaining.
Right.
It would be.
Well, I'll give him a little credit in the fact that he ranks third in technical
Practice,
fouls.
man. He just doesn't like the practice, man.
I believe he ranks somewhere in the top 3 also in minutes played. So that would certainly take a little strain
No,
off
he's a
here.
player. There's no doubt about that. It's, you know, what do you give up for him? I don't think he's going to go anywhere. That's my personal opinion. But if he came to the Celtics, you know what? I'd love it.
All right, we only got a few minutes left. We're going to go a step down from the Celtics, even lower than we've already been, and talk a little bit about the NHL. Let me give you guys a little lowdown, and you tell me what you think about this. The New
Lowdown.
York Islanders.
He's talking Philly.
They're an NHL team, by the way, in New York, the New York Islanders. I didn't know if you knew that. They have
Heard
an
of
owner called Charles Wang, who I think is a little wacky, and around the NHL, apparently he is. Let's hope Charles isn't watching him. I guess
Wang belongs in the Golden League.
Charles Wang has decided to fire GM Neil Smith after 41 days on the job, and in his place put a player, former player of course, known as Garth Snow, who is the backup goalie, formerly, now he retired and now is the GM of the New York Islanders.
Does Garth have friends in low places?
I don't know, but
Was
let me
that the
tell
wrong
you.
Garth?
Garth, is this a crazy GM or is this a crazy league just desperate for PR and desperate to plug in wherever they can because they just have so limited resources within their league, it's not even funny. What's your take on this? Let me put it this way for the viewers, real quick, okay? The Red Sox fire Theo and hire Willie Harris as the new GM. That's the equivalent. That's the equivalent of this. They hired a backup player, to be their new GM. What are your thoughts on that whole matter as it stands?
Well, you know, Snow has produced, even though he's a backup. He knows the game, but at the same time, as far as a GM, like he says, he must know a lot of people in low places.
Well, I mean, we don't. I mean, I think your analogy is a little bit off because.
How so?
Well, because they didn't get rid of Theo Epstein. They got rid of a guy who was there for 41 days. That's the first thing. I mean, Theo Epstein has brought a championship to Boston. The second thing is Garth Snow apparently has been waiting for this to open up. He apparently says this is what he's wanted to do. So maybe, I mean, they know the guy, so maybe they think they're catching a young GM. It doesn't seem to make a lot of sense on the
certain
surface.
criteria that a GM has to have aside from being a goalie? What did this guy?
He's surrounded by some good people, although that's questionable. Some guys are leaving, but listen, we're gonna cut Garth Snow some slack because he's a Mountie. Mount St. Charles,
please.
1 second.
Oh,
he's a
please.
Mountie, local
Yeah,
boy.
Back in the day. Hey, we
He's
gotta
got
wrap
friends
things
in low
up.
places.
Time flies when we're having fun. They're giving us the sign. Guys, thanks. It's been
Is that what that means?
been a pleasure. Yeah,
That sign?
she's doing
Is that
her
what that-
whole.
I thought it was a weather forecast,
Yeah.
tornadoes.
Oh, either she's saying whoop-de-doo, NHL, and Celtics.
I didn't see
don't
that
know.
finger.
We'll see what happens. Hey, it's a sports show at yahoo.com. Keep those emails coming. I'd like to thank DP and Eagle John, we're going to call him.
Eagle
Whether
John.
he likes it or not.
Thank you, John.
I'm Scott Cray. Thanks to Mitch and Jen for their fine help, and we'll see you next week.
Have fun till then.